John Calipari jokes with Mark Pope. "Don't ruin my show, man." When Cal left Kentucky, he crushed some and others wanted him to leave. Let's analyze this controversial news involving Pope and Cal. If you're a Pope fan, subscribe to the channel. The transition in the coaching leadership of Kentucky basketball always carries with it an inevitable weight, a legacy that few can balance without stumbling. When John Calipari left Kentucky after 15 years at the helm of the program, he not only left a legacy of titles and molded players for the NBA, but he also made way for a new era under Mark Pope. Pope's recent interview with Matt Jones brought to light a revealing conversation between the current coach and his predecessor, an exchange that reflects both mutual respect and the implicit pressure to keep alive the flame of excellence that defines Kentucky basketball. Calipari's light-hearted comment, "Don't ruin my program, man," was said in jest, but it carries a deeper truth about the competitive mentality that exists in Kentucky basketball's culture. Calipari, even after his tumultuous departure, still sees himself as an integral part of this program's history. He's speaking not just as a former coach, but as someone who helped build a modern dynasty. The line may come across as a light-hearted dig, but it's also a stark reminder. Kentucky isn't just any college team. It's an institution that demands constant success, no matter who's in charge. This exchange between Pope and Calipari serves as a microcosm of the expectations surrounding the new coach. For some fans, Calipari's shadow still looms over Rupp Arena, even though his final years were marked by underwhelming results. There's no denying that he transformed Kentucky into a talent factory for the NBA, taking the program to a level of global recognition. However, his departure left divisive marks on BBN. Some view his era with respect, celebrating the titles and achievements. Others, however, believe that the cycle needed to be interrupted to make way for new ideas. What is clear is that Calipari still holds a special place in the hearts of many fans, something that was clear when he returned to Rupp Arena as Arkansas's coach, receiving applause and tributes last season. For Mark Pope, taking over Kentucky is not only a privilege, but also a monumental responsibility. He inherited a program that breathes tradition and whose fans have an insatiable thirst for victories. By citing this conversation with Calipari, Pope demonstrates his understanding of the weight he carries on his shoulders. He knows that Kentucky is not just a team that competes for championships. It is a program that must be dominant, that must be the best at everything it does. What makes this transition so fascinating is the way it reflects the duality of the fans' feelings. There are those who still respect Calipari and see his era as a golden age that may never be surpassed. On the other hand, there are those who see Pope's arrival as an opportunity for renewal, a chance to reinvent the program without losing its essence. Calipari's comment, while playful, echoes this tension. He's not just protecting his legacy, he's reinforcing the idea that Kentucky needs to remain Kentucky. It's interesting to note how Calipari, even from a distance, remains connected to the program. His declaration that Kentucky is the best program in all of basketball is a powerful statement, but also a challenge. He's implicitly saying that it's up to Pope to maintain that status. It's not just about winning games or developing players for the NBA. It's about preserving the greatness that defines Kentucky. And Pope so far seems to know this. His tone during the interview with Matt Jones was respectful, but confident, demonstrating that he understands the magnitude of the role he plays. The relationship between Pope and Calipari is certainly one of mutual respect. There are no personal rivalries, but rather a connection that transcends the boundaries of time and space. Calipari left his mark on Kentucky, and Pope is beginning to write his own chapter. Both men know that the success of the program depends on continued excellence, and this conversation between them is symbolic of that handover. And honestly, Pope is doing a great job, don't you think? Let's talk about the NIL issue. What could NIL be doing? According to an article I just read, here we go. The introduction of NIL in college basketball has brought with it a quiet but astronomical revolution that is redefining the dynamics between college sports and the NBA. The case of Yaxel Lendeborg is just one more chapter in this transformation, but its symbolic weight serves as a warning to basketball observers. We are living in an era in which NIL money may be altering not only the fate of individual players, but also the NBA draft system, and consequently, the future of the sport. Itself, Lendeborg, a 22-year-old center who emerged as one of the revelations of college basketball last season for UAB, found himself at a crossroads rarely seen in the world of sports. He had two clear options: enter the 2025 NBA draft and try to earn a spot in the professional league, or return to college basketball with the promise of a multi-million-dollar NIL deal. To the surprise of many, he chose the latter option, committing to Michigan for a hefty paycheck that far exceeds what he would have earned as a rookie in the NBA. According to reports, Michigan's proposed package could be as high as $3 to $4 million, a sum that few first-rounders are guaranteed in their initial contracts in the league. This decision not only illustrates the financial power of the NIL, but also raises questions about what it means for college basketball and the NBA draft. What makes Lendeborg's case so iconic is that he is not a fringe player or a risky draft pick. On the contrary, he was considered a solid first or second round pick, with projections ranging from the 25th to 40th spot in renowned analysts' mock drafts. Players in that range typically have a reasonable chance of signing guaranteed contracts or long-term deals with NBA teams. However, Michigan's offer was simply irresistible. Rather than take a modest NBA contract and start building his professional career, Lendeborg has opted to maximize his immediate earnings while still in high school, betting that he can increase his market value for the 2026 draft. This logic, while understandable from a financial perspective, raises profound questions about the role of NIL in the sport and its implications for the future. The NIL phenomenon is undoubtedly changing the landscape of college basketball. Players now have unprecedented financial incentives to stay in college longer, especially if they can attract generous sponsors. This creates a situation where college teams can compete directly with the NBA for young talent, something that was unthinkable just a few years ago. However, this reality also has a dark side. It is hollowing out the NBA draft, leaving it with less depth and fewer opportunities for teams looking to develop long-term talent. ESPN's John Givney's report that the 2025 draft had the lowest number of early entrants in a decade is a direct reflection of this trend. Players like Lendeborg, Bennett Sturts, Boogie Fland, Alex Condon, Carter Knox, and others are opting to return to college, postponing their professional dreams in exchange for big checks and continued exposure in high school basketball. But is NIL really killing the NBA draft? The answer isn't quite so simple. On the one hand, there's no denying that NIL money is incentivizing players to prioritize the short term over the long term. Instead of entering the NBA and starting to build their professional careers, they're staying in college to capitalize on their current visibility. Not only does this reduce the talent pool available in the draft, but it also hinders the organic development of players who could benefit from a more structured professional environment. On the other hand, NIL has also democratized access to money for athletes who, until recently, were forced to play for free while generating billions for their institutions and sponsors. Lendeborg's case also raises another crucial question. To what extent is the NIL distracting players from their true professional aspirations? It's understandable that a young athlete would view a $1 million check as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially when compared to the relatively modest starting salaries in the NBA. But by delaying his entry into the league, does Lendeborg risk missing out on the chance to develop in a professional environment? It's a sensitive issue, so I'd like to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments.